Welcome to Take 5 for Torah for the Wednesday edition, which is Why Do We Do That? And it's connected to this week's Torah portion, which is the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar, where Bnei Yisrael are counted again and again and again throughout the entire book, which gives it its name in Hebrew, Chumash Pekudim, or simply Numbers. The question, whether we do that today, is why when we count for a minyan, we want to make sure that we have 10 men for Kaddish, Kedusha, Baruch Hu, Chazaras Hashatz. Just say a minyan. We need a minyan. And we don't say how many do we need or how many are we, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't count Jews. You have to say a pasuk or Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz or Hoshea samecha v'oreches nachalasecha reima nasem ad ha'olam. Something that has 10 words in it. You finish counting that and you know you have a minyan. Why don't we just count Jews? After all, the book of Numbers has all kinds of counting of Jews. Well, there you go. This is not the first time that the Torah counts us. The fact is that a big census was taken at the end of Sefer Shmot in Parshas Kisisa, and it says that everyone has to give not 1 shekel, but a half a shekel. We're not whole unless we join with others. And it says in the Torah, V'lo yebaham negef. There should be no plague upon you for counting the Jews. Now, what's wrong with counting the Jews? We'll get to that shortly, but there is really an awful story at the end of Shmuel Bet, where David asks for a census of the Jews, and he tasks Yoav with this mission, who tells David, listen, we will have 1,000 times over the amount of people in your kingdom. Just don't send me for this task. But David insisted, and Yoav came back with a number that was over 1 million soldiers of fighting age, and David was able to see that he rules over a vast kingdom. And then the hammer came down. The prophet came to him, named Gad, and told him, you have 3 choices of punishment. You can choose a certain amount of famine, you can choose a certain amount of pestilence, or you can choose being cast and being chased by your enemies. David's answer is in our daily prayer. V'yomer David el Gad, tsar li ma'od niflona biyad Hashem ki rabim rachamav v'yad Adam ale pola. God, I can't accept being chased by my enemies again. That's most of the last half of Shmuel Bet. I will choose the pestilence. The famine, Radak tells us, would put David at an advantage because he's a king with a lot of storage of food. But the pestilence, everyone is on equal footing in pestilence, and that's what David chose. And in just the first few hours of the pestilence, 70,000 people died. This was all as a result of a ketzef, the negef, what we avoided in Sefer Shmos by giving a half shekel. You counted the shekel, and the amount of shekels you had times 2, that's the amount of Jews there were. But David didn't see it that way. David wanted to see how many people are in my vast kingdom. And the Ramban in the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar explains that it was actually the sin of Yoav in doing it the wrong way, but that's a complicated issue. One thing is for sure, this was seen as sinful because it was not needed. Barbanel explains that for battle, we can count numbers. If we need to strategize, how many people do we need to take that hill? How many people do we need to fight the Ammonites? Even on this, Ramban insists, no. The Gemara in the beginning of the second parak in Maseches Yuma says that even in battle, Shaul took shards of pottery, or sometimes if they were really wealthy, he took sheep from them to count not people but sheep, not people but shards of pottery. So these are some of the hints that we have in the Tanakh for why we don't count Jews, or the fact that we don't count Jews. Why? Is because it's an ayin hara. If someone asks you, how many grandchildren do you have? You always have to say k'nayin hara, and just say enough, or maybe not enough. But by giving a number, maybe someone else is listening, and maybe he doesn't have any grandchildren, or he had a grandchild who is not well, and he's listening to you brag about all that you have. That puts an ayin hara. And that's something that exists. It exists because it causes pain to another person. And that pain is always requited by God. So let's remember this each and every time we count for a minyan, Hoshia, Samecha, or a bracha, or anything with 10 words, but we don't count Jews. And if we must say a number, we say B'li Ayin Hara. At Yeshiva University's graduation, the Jewish Studies always says B'li Ayin Hara. We have 272 students in this program, 184 in this program. B'li Ayin Hara should not come upon us ever at all.